Will Joe Biden's China engagement hurt India? Strategic military infrastructure upgrade in Andaman Nicobar Islands? What is the importance of this chain of islands? And why WTO's new report on hepatitis is a matter of concern for India? Hello everyone, I am Manas Srivastav and I am here with three must reads from the Indian Express today. आज की तारीख है April 10th of April और मैं जैसे कहता हूँ कि newspaper is like a textbook if you're preparing for current affairs, for any competitive examination, for any stage of competitive examination. Before going ahead, just a little reminder कि by the end of this day आपको एक बहुत important document मिलने वाला है Indian Express के UPSC section द्वारा, which is known as UPSC Key, which tells you how to read, what to read, go beyond the headlines, point to ponders, and sometimes MCQs from the newspaper itself, the newspaper of the day, and it helps you to cover the newspaper in a better manner, and therefore subscribe and read. Now, coming to the first pick of the day. When it's a Monday, my favorite author writes, and therefore he becomes my first pick. I'm talking about C. Raja Mohan's articles, editorials on which is known as Raja Mandala, and he writes on foreign relations, foreign strategies, international relations. और आज का आर्टिकल बेहद खूबसूरत है, interesting है, and therefore you must read. The headline of this article, this editorial, is An Elusive Grand Bargain, which you will find it on the ideas page. Now, listen, will Joe Biden's China engagement hurt India? So there has been news that both US and China have been engaging in something which they call as responsible competition or healthy competition or cooperation maybe. But you have to keep this thing in mind that as the world's largest economies, both China and US, and with massive interdependence, and also as a leading military power, okay, this engagement between these two countries, which we are seeing, is real. But at the same time, what needs to be also kept in mind is the contradiction between these two countries. Okay, and that is what this beautiful piece is all about. Divided into two parts. First is the cooperation or the responsible competition which they are talking about. He's talking about between these two countries, and then the larger part covers the contradiction part. What is also important to understand the countries like India, what is their moment right now? Okay, what they have to understand with this. So आपको किसी भी एडिटोरियल का क्रक्स पता होना चाहिए, उसका जो सेंट्रल थीम है, सेंट्रल क्वेश्चन है, वो पता होना चाहिए. और यहाँ पे जो सेंट्रल क्वेश्चन है कि is this engagement hurt countries like India? If this is a cooperation, where is the contradiction? That is the central theme. Now, just quickly reading the first few lines in the paragraph, and then I'll tell you the story. It says, when the Joe Biden administration described its China strategy as a responsible competition, many analysts in India and beyond dismissed it as mission impossible. Okay, तो अभी recently जो बाइडेन एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन जो है उसने ये चाइना स्ट्रैटेजी को रिस्पॉन्सिबल कंपटीशन का. And there is a reason behind it that some people may think that there can be a responsible competition or cooperation because, and these lines as I read, to be sure, as a power far away from Asia and facing no direct threats from China, there will always be a reason for the US to find an accommodation with China. Okay, there is no direct, contact or direct threat, and also the distance. So one can have a peaceful engagement and cooperation, isn't it? And recently there have been two incidents. There are two very important incidents. One is the phone call between these two presidents, US and Chinese, and then there is the visit of US Treasury Secretary to China. Okay, so in fact this was an extended tour to China. So these two incidents hint towards what this article talks about: responsible competition or maybe some kind of cooperation. But the larger part, the larger picture is very different. It talks about this competition of pure sense. And therefore, one of the most important characters is Japan. Now, if you see bringing Japan, or trying to bring Japan in AUKUS, which is Australia, UK, and US, what is US doing is not only strengthening this platform of AUKUS, but also, you know, giving us a hint of how it is coming closer to Chinese neighbors, okay, like Japan, for its own benefit. All right. Now, the second thing is whether you see a lot of alliances or a lot of summits which have been held, whether it's the US Japan, then whether it is the US Japan and South Korea. Okay, then there is a Chip 4 alliance where you have Taiwan, South Korea, Japan, and US. Remember, all these three are somewhere related or somewhere closer to China, and there have been some issues with China, and then you have US in it. Okay, just mark those things. And then you have US, Japan, and Philippines summit, which is again Philippines in the South China Sea. You all know that China, South China Sea और उसके जो different countries हैं उसमें क्या issues हो रहे हैं. So all this you bring together and come to the one of the important boxes which I mentioned, and you will see the link. The link is the new approach is about building a web of Asian security networks that pool the region's military resources, enhance deterrence, and ensure peace. The US, for example, is asking Japan to expand its security assistance to countries in the Indo Pacific, including the Philippines. It has nudged South Korea to expand advanced technology cooperation with India. The recent visit of External Affairs Minister of India to Seoul, Tokyo, Singapore, and other places have seen India stepping up its own bilateral engagement in East Asia. Now, do you understand what's happening? This is the strategy which Raja Mohan writes, that what is US doing? US is not only making its own summits, bilateral summits, or trilateral summits, or these alliances with countries which are neighbors of China or are in some kind of contradiction with China. So एक तो वो path है. दूसरा path है, it is also encouraging bilateral summits, bilateral alliances with these neighbors of China, okay, or with these other Asian partners. All right. So, and India, for example, जो example India का दिया है, that is part of it. Now, where is China being different? It says China's focus instead is on reviving bilateral ties with the US and getting Washington's endorsement of Beijing's primacy in Asia. While Washington actively courts China's large neighbors, Beijing has yet to make nice to them on political territorial issues. Now, there's a very important line. This one line is an answer. It says, America's vigorous competition with China delivers greater agency for Beijing's neighbor, including Delhi. So this is an opportunity for countries like India and other countries. Further, it says that Beijing's quest for a grand bargain with Washington for a Chinese sphere of influence in Asia is leaving its neighbor out in the cold. For now, at least, there is a little evidence that the Chinese leadership is rethinking its Asian strategy. Okay, so this is the editorial. But cut to, there is another important news on the world page. It says Russia, China to discuss ways for deeper security ties in Eurasia. Okay, now this is another news where Russia and China are getting closer. So, and we all know it is close. So, it's very important to read this editorial along with this news. And you never know, there's another editorial on that news. Okay, so just keep a track. Now, my second pick comes from, in fact, the next two picks come from the front page. First is strategic military infrastructure upgrade in the works for Andaman and Nicobar Islands. Now, you have to understand this, that Andaman and Nicobar Islands is a place or is an island for India which has its very strategic importance, a lot of strategic importance, and why we will know this now. Now look at the excerpt. Longer runways, jetty, road expansion amid China's bid to expand influence. Together you get the answer that why so much. Now please pay attention to this first 2-3 paragraphs, and I think you will be done with this news. With revamped airfields and jetties to additional logistics and storage facilities, habitat for troops to robust surveillance infrastructure. Please pay attention. The strategic Andaman and Nicobar Islands are in the middle of a major military infrastructure upgrade. This is said by a senior official, told the Indian Express. So what is the aim? आपका दूसरा ध्यान जाना चाहिए कि एम क्या है. अंडमान निकोबार आइलैंड्स में इतना इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चरल डेवलपमेंट हो रहा है, तो एम क्या है? The enhanced infrastructure is aimed to facilitate deployment of additional military forces, facilities for larger and more warships, aircraft, missile batteries and troops. लेकिन एम केवल ये नहीं है, उसका अंडरलाइंड एम जो है, जो बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट एम है, वो and what is the reason behind doing all this thing is given in the next paragraph. Look at this. The ongoing large-scale construction activities come amid growing Chinese attempt to expand its influence in the region, which includes the construction of military facility at Myanmar's Coco Islands, lying 55 kilometers from Andaman and Nicobar Islands. Open your atlas, mark these islands. Very important for your exams, and definitely, you should have the knowledge of what is happening in Myanmar, what is happening in Andaman with reference to China and India. So a good, carry forward, a good, additional article to read after our first pick, isn't it? Now, a little bit information about Andaman Nicobar is given that these are 836 islands in Andaman and Nicobar, of which only 38 are inhabited. The Andaman and Nicobar Command is the first and only tri-service command in the islands and was established in 2001. Okay. Now, finally, I want you to read this very small box of explainer, the importance of the chain of islands. The Andaman and Nicobar Islands are of great strategic importance since they straddle on one of the busiest sea lanes in the world and give India to reach to monitor the flow of traffic from South China Sea, that is Pacific Ocean, and Andaman Sea, that is Indian Ocean, via the Strait of Malacca, that's key to trade and oil shipment in the Indo-Pacific. So you get geography here, you get defense strategy here, you get international relations here. A lot of information is already given here. So you have to pay attention to this particular article. It's a very important article, and when you read it after Rajmandala or C. Raja Mohan's editorial, it becomes more important. Now, finally, the third article again comes from the front page, and it says India has second highest hepatitis cases, 11% of global burden, as said by WHO, okay, World Health Organization. The first paragraph tells us India has the world's second highest prevalence of viral hepatitis case, accounting for over 11% of global burden in 2022. According to the Global Hepatitis Report 2024, which was released by the World Health Organization on Tuesday. Now, before going into data or before going into other things, what I want you to understand is what is this hepatitis, and there is this paragraph. Viral hepatitis is an infection that causes liver inflammation, damage, and may lead to liver cancer. Hepatitis B is known to cause acute infection with nausea, vomiting, and yellowing of the eye and skin for several weeks. In several cases, it can even cause liver failure. The challenge is that hepatitis B can lead to chronic lifelong liver disease in some, especially when the infection is contracted in childhood. The chronic infection can lead to scarring of the liver tissue called cirrhosis and increase the risk of liver cancer. Now, there is a hepatitis B vaccine, which is a part of Universal Immunization Program in India. Despite these efforts, such a kind of report is really worrying. So I would suggest for your examination, just do not go in too much of numbers, but understand its severity and its definition, its causes, and its cure. Okay, that's all from me today. Please write to me at manas.srivastav@indianexpress.com. I'll be back tomorrow again with the 3 must reads. Till then, think smart, work hard, conquer your goal. Bye-bye.